Hi there, my name's Johnny Johnson and you are watching Sailing with Johnny. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the horn timber replacement aboard the Schooner Suva and what a major project that was.
The horn timber is buried very deep within the heart of the boat. It holds the rudder up and the bumpkin, which holds the backstay, which holds up the mast. So how do we begin this project? We send somebody up the mast. No, in all actuality, the project began many weeks prior to sending anybody up the mast. With a project of this scope, every inch of the boat's interior is eventually going to be covered with sawdust. So all the operational equipment had to come off. All of the cleaning gear, life jackets, cushions, interior decorations, it all had to come off. So our team of volunteers got busy on this project many weeks before any of the woodworking began. Here you can see Sean from Emerald Marine going up the mast to unhook the triadic. The triadic is a stay that runs between the two masts. It had to come down in preparation for taking the masts down. We had to take the masts off because the boat's going to be going into a workshop where the work will be performed, and we could not fit it inside the building with the masts still standing. Coordinating a time when the tide is high enough, there's space available at the marina, crew is available, and the crane operator is available is a fairly complex piece of coordination, and Captain Mark did an outstanding job at coordinating this evolution. He picked a time when the tide is nice and high, with a very low low and a very high high. We had all kinds of time to accomplish the work we needed to accomplish. This went much, much smoother than the reinstallation of the mast. You're going to have to watch this video all the way to the end to see what kind of difficulties we ran into while putting the masts back up. Doing a crane lift is a relatively hazardous operation. Some of the concerns are the crane has to extend the boom quite a ways out, creating a long lever arm. This could potentially tip the crane and have it fall over on the boat. If the mast isn't securely attached to the crane, the mast could slip and fall on the boat, punching a hole right through the bottom of the boat. Objects could fall off of the lift and hit the ground crew. Thankfully, the operators at Ness Campbell Crane and Rigging are wonderfully skilled operators who completed this task safely. As I said earlier, because of Suva's deep draft, we could not get the boat very close to the shore. The crane had to extend its arm out to its maximum reach in order to accomplish the first lift. That means in order to take the foremast off, we had to spin the boat around. This is a fairly confined space to operate the Suva in, shallow water. So out of an abundance of caution, we had Captain Mark jump in the tender/push boat to help maneuver the Suva around the marina. I really appreciate Captain Mark and his skillful operation of the push boat, as well as the rest of the crew and support staff. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I was not able to continue the time-lapse recording of the foremast removal because my battery died. Sufficeth to say, the foremast removal went off without a hitch. And we were soon underway, transiting the Snohomish Channel in order to get to Anacortes. When we arrived in Anacortes, we learned that somebody else had tied up to the dock where we were planning on tying up, raising the question, how do you fit a 68-foot boat on 58 feet of dock space? Well, let me show you. We have a little bit of an overlap here, and we're hanging out over the edge here. The next day we shifted Suva over to the boat ramp and we hauled her out. After a quick pressure washing of the bottom, the boat was driven down the road to Emerald Marine.
My name's Josh Johnson. I've been operating this thing for about 18 years.
18 years.
Too long.
18 years, huh?
You're the grizzled professional now.
Yeah, right?
Maneuvering the boat into the shop, setting up the blocks underneath the keel and the stands along the side of the hull requires a bit of skill and precision.
We can't fix this leak, or nobody else can.
Well, Captain Mark here, founder of Schooner Suva and the Coupeville Maritime Foundation. We're here at Emerald Marine, Andy Stewart's shop. Our repair here is on the horn timber, which is this whole piece. Water had gotten in on the aft deck and created some rot, which happens on a wooden boat. So with this horn timber replacement, will be good for another 100 years. It's Purple Heart, and these guys are magicians. Cutting this piece of Purple Heart, the first chunk of it was 16 by 10 by 14, and they cut it outside on a big lathe cutter that they had to rent. And it's actually in 3 parts. This is a separate part, this is one big part, and there'll be one forward a little bit more. Our problem was we had a hole here. I'll never be able to do this again. There's a hole right in the horn timber right here that went to this rudder post, the sheet for it. And it was creating a little wobble. Not that that was a problem, but down here where the boomkin connects at the end of the horn timber had been rotten a little bit. So that's will be never again. We'll do 2 new planks once it's finished. All of the other hardware is great and perfect. We'll have a cool bronze flange in here, which is going to hold this together, since we did have to cut out some of the major bolts through there. They have the new floor timbers in and bolted, which is exciting to see. They've got a few more to put back here. Again, hopefully we'll be splashing on the 21st and get her back to Oak Harbor, and Captain Johnny can start playing with her.
While Andy and his team of skilled craftsmen worked Monday through Friday putting Suva back together, Andy was also gracious enough to allow us to bring our team of volunteers in on the weekends to do some of those jobs that require a little bit less skill. Jobs such as scraping and painting and doing some mechanical repairs. Once again, I want to thank Andy for being gracious enough to share his workspace with us. And all the volunteers that helped complete this project. Well, we did get Suva put back together, buttoned up, refloated successfully without any major incidents. We made the transit back to Oak Harbor without any incidents. But as I alluded to earlier, when we went to put the mast back on, we ran into a little bit of a snag. When we were scheduling the mast removal, we had all kinds of time. We were able to pick a time when the tide was coming up nice and gradually, and there weren't any extreme tidal changes. That was a slightly different story when we went to put the boat back together. We were rushing to get the boat back together. We had a charter scheduled with a group that wanted to make a movie on the boat, so we weren't able to pick our tides. We ended up doing our crane lift on a day when the tide was swinging a lot more than I would have liked to prefer. And the way everybody's schedule came together, we were actually doing the lift when the tide was going back out. Keeping in mind that the tide was going out, I wanted to leave the boat out as far from the shore as possible. Well, when the crane extended their boom to its outermost limit, the crane was still several feet away from the boat. We had no choice but to move the boat back closer to the shore than I would have preferred, leaving just a few inches underneath the keel. Naturally, with a falling tide, when we added the mast back to the boat, with its 1,200 plus pounds of weight, the boat squatted a bit, and the rudder came into contact with the bottom. So the rudder was resting firmly on the bottom when we went to spin the boat around. I started the engine, added some power, and the boat was not budging. I ended up having to rev the engine up to about 3/4 of full speed. So our engine was revving at our maximum cruising speed, and the boat was planted firmly on the bottom, with a tide that's falling about 10 feet. That's going to leave the boat high and dry for an extended period of time, probably a day or more, because the tide's not going to come back up to that level for quite a while. That would leave the boat on the boat ramp next to the dock. Very embarrassing situation. After our first attempt at spinning the boat around was unsuccessful, we moved the crew and all other tools to the forward part of the boat in order to teeter-totter the boat and lift the rudder up off of the bottom. We also had to run the engine at darn near full power and rock the rudder back and forth for what felt like an eternity before it finally broke loose. In the end, we were able to spin the boat around, reinstall the foremast, and get the Schooner Suva back into operational condition. Schooner Suva is owned and operated by the nonprofit organization that used to be known as the Coupeville Maritime Heritage Foundation. We recently changed our name to the more inclusive Whidbey Island Maritime Heritage Foundation. I want to thank everybody who has donated their time or financial resources to the supporting of the Schooner Suva. Thank you. We ended up getting a somewhat late start to our sailing season, but we ended up having a very wonderful season. Sailing on the Schooner Suva is such a joy. It's an honor and a privilege to work with this wonderful crew, and I invite you to come and join us. Visit schoonersuva.org to book a cruise, make a donation, sign up as a dockside host, or join the crew. I look forward to sailing with you.